Witam towarzysze, to jest Polinkarz, and today we're going to be doing a response to this fucking piece of bourgeois, capitalist, imperialist fucking propaganda here, and I'm with my good friend Jacobin, aka Holodomor ASMR, and
hello,
and this is a video by the Capital Research Center.
dude, look the way it's paused. Holy shit.
This is a video by the Capitalist Research the Capital Research Center, but we can pretty much call it the Capitalist Research Center, and yeah, so this is their video on Slavoj Zizek. The video is called Architects of Woke.
Here's a challenge. Using the inscrutable texts of an 18th century philosopher and the pseudo-scientific musings of a long-forgotten French psychoanalyst.
All right, that's a little dishonest. I mean, if you guys know, most of you probably don't know who Jacques Lacan is, but he's a Freudian psychoanalyst. I mean, I don't know too much about him, but like, I'm pretty sure this fucking bourgeois retard calling him a pseudoscientist is probably not too valid. So, yeah.
Vitalize the single worst idea of the 20th century. Empower yourself to global superstardom.
Yes, communism is the single worst idea in the 20th century because it gave people human rights and food and, like, you know, like good lives. And as we know, that's a terrible idea.
Is Zizek really mainstream like he's making him out to be, dude? Like, I know he writes articles in like the Independent and like the Philosophical Salon, but like he's acting like he's a fucking superstar. Like, if you ask some like random, or even your average college student if they knew who Zizek was, like they would say no, dude.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked like you're just average person, like they wouldn't know who the fuck Zizek is. Like, this guy's acting as if like Zizek is like the Robespierre of America, but that's like not the fucking case.
Yeah.
Sound impossible? Well, then you don't know Zizek.
What am I doing here in the middle of the ocean surrounded by frozen corpses?
Slavoj Zizek is a Slovenian philosopher and unabashed communist, blessed with a rare gift for translating his radical politics into tasty pop culture analogies.
Hunger Games, Elysium, that's the society we are approaching. 20% of people live in the privileged zone, the majority is out. That's the future.
Zizek has produced an avalanche of books and starred in
this video like accidentally made Zizek look like a badass.
Yeah, no, they fucked up. More like a Zizek music video than anything else.
His core claim is that capitalism is sustained through mass ideological indoctrination.
There is nothing natural about human desires. We have to be taught to desire.
You see dictatorship in democracy. It's the invisible order which sustains your apparent freedom.
No. Corporate hegemons didn't teach you to love property rights and cheap air travel.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, first of all, like, okay, so, like, it has to be admitted that Zizek does have, like, some pretty Hegelian idealist elements, but his claim here that, you know, human desires are, like, especially heavily influenced by the ideological superstructure is completely fucking valid. Like, of course you're gonna make the retarded claim like, oh yeah, get it, because in the Soviet Union people didn't have rights, property, and couldn't fly to places, get it. But no, like, first of all,
property rights.
First of all, like, communists are not anti-property rights, you fucking idiot. Like, we're like, how many times do we have to explain the difference between personal property and private property, and how private property is not like the traditional fucking property? Like, private property is means of production, land, etc., like fucking ways to attain power in society. We're fully in support of you having your own personal possessions. And
ask the fucking people at like Standing Rock that have like an oil pipeline built through their fucking land if they like fucking.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, because as if the capitalist superstructure of the world gives a shit about your fucking property rights. They only give a fuck about their own private property rights.
And like, at least half of what comes out of his mouth is absurd, pseudo-intellectual nonsense.
When we flush the toilet, excrements simply disappear out of our reality, which we phenomenologically perceive as a kind of a netherworld.
You're supposed to
All right, first of all, like,
How is he wrong?
first of all, like, that's not pseudo-intellectual nonsense. Like, I mean, besides the fact that you took that out of context, like, that was obviously a fucking a quote that was taken out of context. But it's not even wrong. Like, how is that pseudo-intellectual nonsense? It's not nonsense. Like, what are you fucking talking about?
Yeah, it's
pretend
factual.
that this is profound.
We have a name for fantasy realized. It's called nightmare.
But Zizek's appeal isn't coherence. It's that punk rock philosopher swag.
I love Canada. I think you should invade the United States, make it a colony, and you should do the Hunger Games, and Americans should send people ready to die to you.
Put
Okay.
them in the gulag and so long.
Obviously, that was a fucking joke. If anybody thinks that he was being serious and that they're fucking idiots, like, or they just don't know who Zizek is, like, that was clearly a joke. And of course, they're gonna take that out of pretty much. This entire video is just taking shit out of context to make Zizek look bad. And you'll see that as we go on too.
Zizek has secured a global fame accorded to just a microscopic slice of academics. The memeable
How new is this
mascot
video?
of the hipster.
Hold on, let me check when it was made.
Probably like an
It was
anti-communist
published
response.
on May 7th, 2019, so it was like a month ago.
So it was after the
Wait,
debate. So
sorry.
it's like as a response.
No, hold on. This was released literally fucking, let's see, 9 days ago.
Yeah, so it's a response to the fucking
The
Zizek
Zizek Peterson debate.
Peterson being fucking destroyed.
Yeah, pretty
Zizek.
much. This is just like them trying to protect
Yeah,
Peterson.
and people are like, "Oh, let me check out Zizek," and they're like, "Actually, he's evil."
Be careful, guys. This guy's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Revolutionary.
Very, very moderate of you.
But there is something sinister lurking underneath those intellectual pyrotechnics.
Unbridled capitalism brings catastrophe. A radical change is needed.
How is that different from what like
salvation-
Ocasio-Cortez is saying? Well, he just said that.
or,
Right.
or Sanders,
Like-
really. Like,
Yeah.
that's like such like that fucking like line of thought is so basic. Like, that's not even radical. Like, that's just an average social democrat line, that unbridled capitalism is catastrophic and needs to be changed radically.
That's even what like most like Trump people thought, dude, with like the drain, the swamp shit. Like,
Yeah,
what he did
exactly.
Right there is why most people voted Trump.
This is not like, I mean,
Fuck.
clearly this capitalist research center is just like a fucking libertarian think tank, just like fucking retard fucking libertarians.
Depends on the emergence of a steely supreme overseer. November 1917.
My God.
The Bolsheviks overthrow the newly formed democratic Russian government. Their leader, Vladimir...
First of all, it wasn't democratically formed. The state was actually formed through a fucking coup. Like, the
government.
Kerensky government was literally formed through a military coup, not a fucking democratic organization, you fucking
Yeah, and like
idiot.
the whole point was to be like, oh, like everyone wanted the war to stop because they're just getting massacred. They weren't even being handed rifles. They're just like, here, I'll go pick up the rifle from the dead guy. Like, a lot of people think that's about World War II and the Soviet Union, but no, the whole like stereotype about Russians never having any rifles in battle is actually comes from the Tsarist military.
Yeah, from World War One, yeah.
So yeah, they didn't
Lenin
want that.
unilaterally declares himself president.
No, he didn't declare himself president. It was a declaration by the fucking Central Committee of the goddamn party. Fucking Jesus Christ.
And promises a communist utopia of peace, land, and bread.
He never. First of all, it goes peace, bread, and land, and second of all, no, this fucking face is hilarious. But
It looks like a fucking drought.
but Lenin had not at any fucking point ever. Like, I dare you to find one speech or one text or anything by Lenin that mentions anything of a utopia. Like,
This dude's
please.
fucking Yeah, I mean, he looks like if you went to go visit Zizek's tomb or something, he would come out of he would try to fight you like a level 10 like boss. Be like, you cannot be here. Why are you here?
Fucking
Skeleton.
dreadful Draugr.
Yeah.
He delivers violence, death, and misery, erecting
Yes. Lenin delivered death by ending the war.
Yes.
Lenin, the man who ended the worst probably one of the worst wars in Russian history, he contributed to death, misery, and violence. Yeah, okay.
a ubiquitous surveillance apparatus, imprisoning and murdering thousands.
As if this has never been the policy of every single fucking, like, revolution ever. Like, you do realize that every single revolution, even capitalist revolutions, started out by trying to weed out the opposition, right? Like, this is like, they're acting as if, like, this is some abstract thing that only communists did. Like, no.
George Washington imprisoned and murdered thousands.
Every single revolution essentially tried to weed out all the fucking, like, opposing revolutionaries, all the opposing counter-revolutionaries. Like, this is, like, just Revolution 101. This is not something that communists only did. Like, fuck, man.
Establishing a vast terror network well before Stalin came to power.
Oh, yes. Yeah, a vast terror network.
Osama bin Laden, like, type shit.
Yeah, dude.
Like, what's he talking about?
Yeah, absolutely had fucking, yeah.
I mean, they had the Cheka.
Yeah, but the Cheka was literally just their fucking intelligence, like, their primitive intelligence agency. Like, that's what the Cheka was.
I mean, you can call the police a vast terror network.
Yeah, like, the literally
Mm-hmm.
the U.S. police force is a vast terror network by this fucking guy's standard. Actually, even more so than, like, the Cheka, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Zizek loves Lenin.
Yeah, for good reason, because he's a fucking awesome dude. That's why Zizek loves Lenin. Not only did Lenin, like, do the first successful socialist revolution in history, but he also was a genius who fucking interpreted Marx and, like, did great contributions to Marxist theory overall. Like, fuck, man. This is the worst part. It's like, nowadays, like, Lenin is becoming more popular, but then you still have fucking idiots like PragerU and the Capital Research Center trying to, like, drag Lenin down with Cold War propaganda. Like, good luck, fucking retards.
Accept the greatness of Lenin. Maybe we will have to do large, sometimes even violent things. The dream of too many people today will somehow get a change, but a change which will not hurt. It will hurt.
Fast forward to the mid-2000s.
You gotta break eggs to make
Socialist
an omelet, my
Venezuelan
dude.
president.
Yeah, of course. Like, they're acting as if this is some like crazy idea that, like, you need to get dirty if you want to have, like, real change. Like, what the fuck? Like, how is that, like, a crazy idea? Like, oh, well, we actually have to, like, fucking, you know, use, like, everything we have to actually, like, instigate fucking change in the system because it's rigged against us.
Amazing.
Hugo Chavez responds to mounting public opposition with a brutal
If you're not capitalist, you're Venezuela.
crackdown, erecting a paramilitary goon squad.
Yeah, what the fuck is the connection here?
Paramilitary goon squad.
Dude, it's the government. They tried to coup Chavez's government and they, like, kidnapped him, dude. And then, like, the local people fucking rescued him.
There have been multiple, even one recently, there have been multiple capitalist backed coups in Venezuela, and all of them have failed. I wonder why. It's almost as if the government in fucking Venezuela is supported by the common fucking worker.
Yeah, John Pilger has, like, a good documentary about this.
Just, like, there are videos of people visiting fucking Venezuela, and, like, you can see the communists in Venezuela. Like, I just don't understand, like, how people can be so fucking
and they have, like, such a high, like, collectivos, like militia participation too.
Oh yeah. They have huge militias that are supported by the fucking workers, and, like, also when you look at the average, like, rate of sorry, the rates of death by starvation, Venezuela has actually one of the lowest starvation rates in South America. So like literally, this is just such a bad argument.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's starving in
dismantling
Venezuela.
rival political parties.
I continue being the king.
Zizek said these steps should
What?
be fully
Is that supposed to be like a translation of him going? "Eh." Just look at that. Just look at that shit.
parties.
Why has it got like Russian characteristics? Russian
Zizek said these
What the fuck
steps
is
should
that?
be fully endorsed.
should be fully enforced.
That the left appropriates fascism. It's not a cheap joke.
I actually have that full like fucking, or at least part of that video that he's like sourcing there on my YouTube channel as like pro Zizek like propaganda.
When I say the only chance is that the left appropriates fascism and so on and so on. It's not a cheap joke. The point is to avoid the trap of the standard liberal oppositions, freedom versus totalitarian order, discipline, and so on, to rehabilitate notions of discipline, collective order, subordination, sacrifice, all that. I don't think this is inherently fascist.
He's basically against like adventurism, like anarchist bullshit, but he's just talking about like, yeah, there's nothing fascist about having like a collectivist mentality, like a self-sacrificing like mentality. Like that's not fascist, and that's actually the only way we can really win. That's what he's trying to say. In that,
Yeah, like people need to like be willing to sacrifice themselves for like, you know, the good of all people, like for the good of humanity. Like it's not a fucking crazy idea that altruism and like sacrifice and empathy and sympathy are the means of by which humanity progresses. Like to have this fucking concept of just like, you know, always be out for yourself, never indulge in righteousness, never indulge in like progressive, like, you know, trying to go forward. Like that's such a terrible way of looking at societal development.
yeah, and this fucking douche nozzle seems to be forgetting the fact that, like, even though he's like, oh, look how terrible Venezuela is. I mean, Zizek literally lived in fucking socialist Yugoslavia, so he knows what he's fucking talking about here.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was like you know, a counterculturist in Yugoslavia, but then after Yugoslavia collapsed, he's like, wait a second,
it's like
this is shit now.
Churchill's quote about like capitalism is the worst system except for all the others. Like that's basically Zizek feels the same way about socialism.
Yeah, so
that's like that's
especially in Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
This is the grand architect of our collectivist utopia. He can't be shackled by your precious democratic constraints.
We often
You realize that like socialism is inherently far more democratic than fucking capitalism is, right? Like in capitalism, you have wealth influence in the government. In socialism, you don't have wealth influence in the government. Which system sounds more democratic to you? One that has money influence or one that doesn't have money influence? Like, it's just so...
Vote with your dollar.
Yeah, like serious fucking nonsense.
need a master figure to push us out of an inertia. And I'm not afraid to say that forces us to be free.
Zizek preaches this poison.
Like, he's not saying that, you know, that great men, like, move the wheels of history. Like, that's not what he's saying in that fucking, like, in that, you know, in that quote that you fucking used. He's basically just saying that, like, there needs to be, like, a central group of people, like, you know, societal development has leaders. Like, that's just the fucking case. Like, there are people who... like are massive influences who are the poster boys of revolution, and that was always the case, and that always will be the case. It's not a bad thing. It's just how humanity progresses. Like, I mean, it's just such a stupid thing to think that just because you have a leader that somehow, like, there's an ideological leader for the revolution, it's somehow undemocratic. Like having an ideological leader of a revolution is not undemocratic. Like,
dude, it's not the fucking person themselves; it's the ideas they represent.
Exactly.
People
Like honestly, just turn this around on the capitalists and be like, oh, the American Revolution was not democratic because you had people like George Washington and Benjamin Franklin at the top, and then there were statues of George Washington and all the leaders erected, and we carved their faces into a mountain. Like, look at that, it's so undemocratic, it's so fascist. Like, no, like what the fuck?
To his groupies.
Desire something, but do not really want it. Don't be afraid to really want what you desire.
Okay, so before this fucking this jackass strawman's Zizek for like the 11th time, I'm just gonna say that what Zizek is saying here is that people like want change, but sometimes they're afraid to actually act upon it because the idea of change, the idea of instability and the transition can be very frightening. But people have to set their fears of transitionary chaos, for what they desire, for the progress that they truly desire. That's what he's saying here. So let's see what this fucking dumb fuck's gonna say now.
Here's the message. Trust your righteous anger.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what that's supposed to mean.
Fully commit to your utopia. Embrace the strong man and burn down whatever.
Embrace
or
the strong
whoever
man.
Stand.
Yeah. This is just like the Lenin thing. Like, please show me a work or anything made by Zizek where he is where he's promoting a strong man, a utopia, and burning down whatever gets in your way. Like, please show me where he says that. Like, please show me where he blatantly promotes having a strong man and a utopia.
Is the state like not a strong man in itself, like controlled by fucking class society? It's like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? Like, we have a state. Like, state is a strong man.
As long as class exists, there will always be quote unquote strong men. Like, granted, they are figureheads. Like, typically, like the strong men of history have always been fucking slaves of the dominant class, the bourgeois class, at least in capitalism. And then beforehand, like these strong men figures have always been servants to the dominating class, to the dictatorship of class. That's why Lenin and Stalin were servants of the proletariat, and that's why people like Trump and Clinton are servants of the bourgeoisie. It's because of the dictatorship of class. The quote unquote strong men that exist within society only exist to serve the dictatorship of class. And as long as we have class, the dictatorship of class will exist. That's the point of transitionary socialism, is to eliminate class so that we don't need strongmen anymore. We don't need these unnecessary brutalities of barbaric elements of societal organization. It's primitive. And
it's to abolish the gun, you must pick up the gun.
Exactly. And so, yeah.
In your way.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Antifa burning trash cans is the greatest threat.
Yeah.
What's the pleasure of narcissism if you don't secretly know that you squash the others? That's the whole point, no?
Alright, so he's trolling.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be like evil. Like, dude, Zizek fucking trolls people like that all the time. Like, he says like ironic shit just because it's fucking funny.
Yeah, Zizek is a known troll, and like he is known for making like controversial jokes just because it's entertaining. Because it is entertaining. It's hilarious to have this Leninist philosopher just like cracking these extremely controversial jokes all the time. Yeah, I mean, good job, Capital Research Center. You managed to truly make a fool of yourselves.
Thank you to Rob Mont, Scott Walker, Joseph Jake Klein, and Eden Friedson.
Friedson, yeah.
True big brains.
Mega big brains of the intellectual community. Thank you for showing us the evil of Zizek, the Robespierre terrorist.
Yeah, and you fucked up and you just made him look badass, and now everyone wants to go fucking.
Yeah, this fucking this shitty advertisement like probably makes Zizek look better than like what you were intending to. But yeah, so thank you, comrades, for watching this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one.